Was like, how does like Corium as a layer one blockchain, how do we adhere to, or what kind of regulatory compliance is necessary, and does Mika or something like that apply to what we're doing, kind of to make it about us?
I mean, what we're doing with the ISO 222 compatibility, it's kind of the same thing as adhering to these regulations on the protocol level. I think is where this whole space is going. So having that, it really gives us an advantage when dealing with traditional financial institutions, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but like having this level of like programmability at the token level with smart tokens really helps. Like being able to issue stablecoin and right off the bat have the whitelisting, burning, freezing, everything that we've discussed multiple times is definitely advantageous. In general, though, I do think it's very early in this race, right? Like as we bring more like RWAs on chain, we really have to adhere to more things. So it's not like there's one set of regulations. I would love to, like, there was like a whole book that said this is all the crypto regulations that you have to follow.
Right.
But at least now we're getting to a point where there's like, okay, for each specific business venture, you have one, right? For offering securities on chain, for example, from the Sologenic side of things, I've come to learn that even to get like a product approved, you have to go to, in the US, you have to go to the SEC. So it's not as easy as I thought it was from a technology standpoint, but I'll just end up with saying, this is clearly a step in the right direction, and it just reinforces the fact that at Corium we're building in the right direction as well. So definitely.
Yeah.
And to your point, Fabio, too, I can kind of segue on that. With Micah coming out with this new script of framework, I did read that a lot of these different regulatory bodies, they're going to be taking notes. So if this Mika, if this framework is good, yeah, if Mika is good, if it's a win-win for the industry and the governments and obviously the users, these other regulatory bodies they are taking notes, and they're going to be kind of like implementing some similar frameworks as Mika. So it's good that we're reading up on these new frameworks, understanding what could potentially be what the new regulations are going to be for new different sort
use
of like
cases,
use cases, government bodies,
and also like Corium wants to be and has a presence in Europe as well, right? So having new businesses or projects that are building from Europe, they're gonna have to be compliant with this Mika standard anyways, right?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say it's really interesting to see this advancement in compliance in adoption on the institutional side, and at the same time we're seeing that a lot of the retail products in crypto are becoming more how do you say, like, abstracted in a way, right? Like we've seen Solana Blinks, we've seen Frentex, there's a bunch that come up very recently, and it's all about crypto being in the back end buried, so you don't even interact with it, and that's that's what a lot of people on the XRP Apex also discussed about. I think Witze gave a talk about it, and yeah, I mean it's just the premise of building something that you don't know you're interacting with Web3, and that's where we would know that that's mass adoption, right?
Absolutely.
So I think these two things collide, and it's positive sentiment overall for the whole space.
Yeah, that's something that Michael and we talk about in the office here, but we also talked about on a previous episode, is like, how do we get this large scale adoption across to the normies, right? And make it easy. We talked about like Web 2.5, but these consumer apps, the like chain abstraction, all of these things. So you named a couple of companies, but aside from just like actually rewind, how do these businesses make it easier for these users? Like if you could just say it.
I can maybe chime in, like
Yeah.
just because Fabio brought up a good use case, the blinks. It's basically just abstracting one piece of blockchain. So that's basically just the multi-sig piece. You're just signing a transaction. So what Blinks Solana did is just implemented that one piece of blockchain, which is signing a transaction, putting it on a nice UI UX, and implementing it on a platform that everybody uses every day. That's the step forward in where we see like those types of applications that you're using blockchain under the hood. You really have to get a lot of those larger stakeholders involved to make it widely adopted. With James Fabio, there was a piece that I brought up, talking about layer one blockchains that are being built by institutions like JP Morgan and Onyx. These layer ones can potentially be connected to different banking applications like, Chase Bank has their own application. I could foresee, and I want to get your opinion on this. I can definitely foresee in the very near future that these different legacy banking applications are going to have their own page for their own regulated, decentralized products. So whether that be, DYDX, Corium Dex, Osmosis, you name it. As an example, Onyx by JP Morgan, it's a testament to showing that, we are building in the right direction. And yeah, I wanted to get your opinion on that. Like, how do you kind of foresee how that kind of interacts with each other?
When we were on the XRP Vegas event, they asked me like, what do you think is the future of interoperability? And it's basically that, being able to access these DeFi products within the traditional financial products that already exist. And that can be definitely palpable on a mobile banking app, because that's something that everyone has, everyone uses. And it's just another opportunity. I mean, why would you use DeFi? Because you want to do something with your money instead of it just sitting there, right?
Exactly.
So it's a no-brainer to have it where you actually control your money, where you get paid, right? It's a level of adoption that I think is completely feasible and
100%.
I would say the next layer would be you getting paid in stable coins and like completely transacting on a Web3 layer, which also I don't think it's far, and some people already do it, but the first one I do see coming really soon.
Yeah, I mean, that really is...
The question there, sorry, to just to finish up, is like the question there is, who do you think are they going to integrate? Of course, they're going to look for like blockchains that have like the minimal, compliance-friendly features, right? Like AML monitoring on the chain. They have this decentralized credentials, or however you would like to call it, like just some sort of credentials that allow to verified and KYC users, even at the wallet level. Or at least have a trusted credential that they can validate against. So those are, I think, the projects that are going to see these financial institutions
and the ISO,
first.
right? Like the everyone's going to have to be using ISO in 2025, right? So these are like kind of those core features, right?
So yeah, the ISO thing is it's very like niche at this point, in a sense that it's not every fintech that has to use it, right? It's more like banks. But at the same time, fintechs that want to have a smoother relation with, a smooth rail of transaction with banks, they will have to adhere to it by November next year. So I definitely think that is a good use case. It's a perfect use case for just tokenization in general, right? Because the way Corium handles it is you can tokenize the ISO string, like the ISO messaging string, I believe.
And what do you kind of segueing into the, even maybe like central bank digital currencies? Do you think that there's a potential that, maybe these commercial banks, like Chase, could even issue their own commercial bank digital currency? Is that it? Do you think that's a possibility?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I think there's like three buckets the way I see it, right? There's the huge banks that they are going to build this, in-house. They're going to probably have their own department of digital assets, or they already have. And then there's a second bucket, which I find it like more appealing in terms of what we're doing, which are medium financial institutions that perhaps are going to integrate solutions that are already pre-built. But both players are going to want to have something that they can make money off. And that's
Definitely.
where this type of product, or this type of, CBDCs or stable coins, or that's where they come in place, right?
Yeah.
Sure, like the interest from the bank, you can generate that all on chain. A lot of different components that the banks use for, yield generation. It could all be on chain.
That was kind of where my head went immediately, was like, banks, they obviously operate on taking your money and then they'd go do something with it. They give you a 0.00 back, and then they got to go lend it out or invest it in the markets.
Yeah.
So that liquidity and being able to move that money around quickly, they need the framework for it, but there's definitely a benefit to it being on chain and being super fast, right?
And transparent.
And I honestly,
which they might not like.
I think the conversation is not gonna be like the normies versus whoever is in Web3. It's literally a conversation about financial literacy, and specifically our generation. I think they're gonna learn about this when crypto or blockchain is already part of finance as a whole, right? And blockchain has other use cases, other applications that have nothing to do with finance as well, which is completely true. But yeah, what I'm saying is like the conversation is not really gonna be perhaps like, oh, this is how you set up your wallet pass-free keys. No, it's gonna be like, look, this is what you can do with your money in 1 month. If you need it to be liquid, you have this option. If you actually want to, take it or lock it in for a longer term, these are other options. And you can range from traditional financial like stocks, bonds, to ETFs, to cryptos, so it's a wider palette that will be available, and that's the conversation, I think.
In other words, Fabio, there's levels to this shit.
There's levels to this shit, for real. I mean, now, this is going this is right over my head with this level.